As is pretty well known, the mighty United States were once neither united nor states. They were 13 colonies under the British Empire under this flag, which has 13 alternating red and white stripes to symbolize the 13 colonies, and the Union Jack to symbolize the British rule. But eventually, due to a conflict with France and some tax disputes, plus some other complicated stuff that I'm not going to talk about here, the colonies decided they didn't want to be ruled by the British anymore and declared themselves independent. But now, the young United needed a flag to fly to unite all the newly christened states under. Now, of course, they ended up getting rid of the Union Jack as a way of telling those tea-drinking, crumpet-eating, goofy accent-having Brits to shove their taxation without representation up their other colonies, and so was written the 1777 Flag Resolution, which deemed that, and I quote, "The flag of the 13 United States be 13 stripes alternate red and white, that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field," but doesn't specify anything about the order or position the stars and stripes need to be in, so that leaves a lot of room for some potentially hilarious shenaniganery to occur, such as the Easton flag, but that isn't important. Now, the article I've read on the first actual US flag is hilariously vague about which flag is the actual flag or whether it's just the naval flag, apparently. But these are all designs that showed up for that specific era of US history in the images section. Now, personally, my favorites are these two circular ones because they're so much more interesting than the square ones, but we'll just use this square one and this circular one because these are the most well-known, or rather, one of them is the most well-known, and one of them is the one that shows up in the official images section for some reason. Okay, whatever. Now, with independence secured and a whole continent's worth of, air quotes, free land out west, it seemed inevitable that the young United would soon expand, and expand she did, soon bringing in the states of Vermont and Kentucky into the Union, and not wanting to leave anyone out, decided to change the flag to include 15 stripes and stars each. However, as the country grew and the states kept getting added, the young United decided that if they did the same thing with everyone who joined the Union, the flag would become incredibly hard to read at a distance, incredibly fast. So they reset the number of stripes to 13, but just kept adding stars. And as the years went by and territorial purchases and annexations climbed higher in number, the flag stuck to that basic principle. And thus we get this very long section on Wikipedia where it goes through all the flag changes the Union ever went through and all the concept flags for each state edition. Now, I'm not going to go through each of them because it would take way too much time, but just look at this video of me scrolling through all the designs. However, in the middle of this vexillological consistency, the now not-so-young United now only became not-so-young, but also not-so-united, splitting in twain with the South seceding and declaring herself in the independent Confederate States of America, and chose this flag to unify them. Now, this flag is fine, but it bears a little too much resemblance to the flag of the Union, and the citizens of the new Confederacy noticed this as well. Not only that, but flying a flag that bears a resemblance to not only the flag of your mother country, but also the country you are currently and actively at war with isn't quite the best design choice when you have to distinguish between the two in the middle of a battle. So over time, the official flag became less and less popular, and the Confederate Naval Jack became more popular, until eventually they just said screw it and replaced the flag with the Naval Jack, but as a square this time, in the top left corner of a white banner. Now, some of you may be thinking that it's weird for a country to put the most recognizable aspect of their flag on the universal symbol for surrender, so eventually they decided to change by adding a small red bar on the far right. But their attempt to make their flag look less like a surrender flag was ironically and hilariously followed a few weeks later by the surrender of the Confederacy and her reabsorption into the Union. But apart from that, the Civil War affected US flags in other ways. For one, before the Civil War, no one really cared about the actual Union flag that much, but because of the war, the flag became a part of national identity, provoking powerful pride within its citizens. But though the Union continued to collect states and add stars onto her flag, the actual state flags kinda suffered. Quite a bit of shade had recently been cast on the concept of state individuality, given how some of the states had gotten just a little bit too individual a few years prior, and so the flags of the new states that were designed became so painfully formulaic, using the same seal-on-blue background plus optional name and date design, because they were supposed to blend together when put side by side, making it look like each seal represents a star on the main US flag. I mean, symbolically, I see the point, but damn do they look boring. I mean, look at Illinois and Delaware, which are especially bad because they don't even use the standard dark blue like other states do. There are still some good state flags out there, like Texas, Mississippi, New Mexico, Ohio, and Tennessee, but they are the exceptions, not the rule. It gets even worse when you go down a level and look at city flags, of which for one vexillological masterpiece like Portland, Oregon, West Plains, Missouri, or Norman, Oklahoma, there are 10 absolute nightmares like Nitro, West Virginia, or the old flag of Pocatello, Idaho, which had a copyright notice on it. You never know what you're going to get with a state or city flag. Sometimes you get something terrific, others you'll get something horrific, or something's just fine. It's a very mixed bag, but it mostly skews towards the bad.